Hi, I'm John Lockwood from John Next Door, and I'm here today to show you how to make a quick birthday card to help celebrate Hochanda's 4th birthday. I'm using on this one of the new press cut dies that was released earlier, a couple of weeks ago I think, along with basic stamping and some colouring using the ice inks. Really quick and simple, and a great card to make for people when you need one in a hurry. So let's get started. I've taken a piece of white watercolour card. This is 300 GSM, and I'm using this because number one, it will take colour beautifully well, but number two, watercoloured card has a lovely texture to it, so it gives a finished card a really expensive feel. Now I've cut this to 5 1/4 by 5 1/4 inches square. And this means that you could put this with some mats and layers on a 6 by 6 card, or take it to a 6 1/2, 7, 8, make it as large as you want. And I'm going to be using this die, and this is the background, so this is the flower layer C die, if that makes sense. So if you actually watched the shows on the 11th and 12th of August, which was earlier this month, you'll have seen this die and me use this one. So that's what I'm going to be using on this. Not going to be using the outside line, but if you want to, you can use the outside line die section to cut yourself the square for the main piece, and this will cut you a nice rounded square of 5 1/4 inches. Put that to one side. I'm going to use the background die, and all I'm going to do is just place this nice and evenly onto the square, and then pop it down and run it through my die machine. So while that's running through, just going to explain, I'm going to be using Ice Ink dye ink. I'm using dye ink because I get a beautiful translucent finish with a dye ink, and it's quick drying. And the two colours I'm using are rose and verbena. So a really soft yellowy green and a soft rose colour. So a beautiful, again, soft pink. I'm going to be using as well 2 of the Crafts 2 finger daubers, as I find this is the best application tool for this. So we take our piece out and peel it off. Just going to pop out the little sections from this. So you can just give it a flick, or use your pokey tool and get the little bits out. And you'll see this die has a beautiful swirl pattern. If I hold that one up, hopefully you can see. It's got a beautiful swirl pattern following the circle. And then it's got, there we go, beautiful pattern there. And then it's got all these little leaf patterns which are cut out from it. So when matted up, makes a beautiful, with the other dies in the set, makes you a beautiful flower lined up. But we're going to use this one on its own. So all I'm going to do, take my finger dauber, and I hold that, I just gently rest it on my finger and hold it between my thumb and that finger there, so that I've got good direction with it. I've got it in a firm grasp and I can direct where it's going. So just going to lightly take a little bit of the colour off and just gently colour each of the circles in the set. So just going round, and all I'm doing is a nice easy circular pattern. Because of how I'm holding the finger dauber, it means that I've got really good control. I don't actually have to sit there with a piece of foam and try and not get those square edges. But doing that, you can see then I just get those soft, they start to look almost like little roses with the dots in them. So next, I'm going to take my finger dauber again, back into the rose ink, and take quite a bit onto it, and just daub in the centre of each circle. And what I'm getting is a little bit of a darker area in the centre of each flower, and it just gives that little bit more definition, and actually hopefully looks, if I hold this one up you'll be able to see, it gives the flower that little bit more definition, and looks as if you've been cleverer, as if we know exactly what we're doing. So there you've got it softly shaded. Yeah? So anywhere you want to, you can just go back over at the end just to blend it out a slight bit. And it's a quick and easy way to give you a really effective 3D shaded area. Next I'm going to do exactly the same with the verbena. Pop the finger dauber onto my finger and hold it between each one and take some ink on, but work it off a little bit onto your mat. We don't want this to be too heavy, and I'm just simply going to circle round each flower. So just gently going round each flower, and by going in this movement the ink will actually go darker on the edge of where the cut line is by going forward and backwards. So again, just going around each one, it means that the ink kind of drags a little bit onto the edge of the cut line, and you get again a look that says you've spent ages shading it. So again, I'll hold this one up and hopefully we can see there you've got it shaded round and a little bit darker against each edge. You see how it's caught the edge of the leaf? So it looks like you've gone round and tried and individually coloured each little petal, which of course we haven't, we've cheated, which is the way I love to do things. So just make sure everything's out. So just going to go in again with the verbena and take one straight edge, and using circular movements from off on the glass mat or your ink mat onto the card and just catch the edge. That way we shade that edge lightly and it doesn't look quite so raw when we mount it onto our card. Go round, do the third line and then do the fourth. And I'm finally going to finish by repeating that with the pink. So exactly the same again, take some off and just go gently around with the pink, and what will happen is the pink will mix slightly with the green and give us another shade on the edges, which just adds to that definition. There we go, lightly around the edges, and it looks then, I'm going to hold this one up again just so that you can see the edges, that you've actually got a real definition from them. So it just shades it in. And this will show off better when I put it onto the main card. So just slide that on, and again hopefully then with, there we go, with the overhead we can see there the definition that we're gaining from that edge all the way around it. All we need now is simply the sentiment. So pop that to one side. I'm using my Press to Impress, which I find a lot easier for stamping for doing my sentiments. I've already lined up my sentiment in the corner. So just move this right up, there we go. So I've got my sentiment lined up, but I'll show you that. I'm going to put this, I've cut a little flag using one of my, I think it's my With Love tag die, in the same watercolour card. Take your sentiment, I'm using Happy Birthday to You, and just place it exactly where you want on there. Really simple. Close the press to pick up the stamp. I'm using VersaFine and I'm using smoky grey for this, and the reason for that is there's no black anywhere on this card, so if I stamp it with a heavy black it'll be really obvious and your eye will be dragged to it, whereas by using the softer grey it looks as if it's black but it doesn't have the same effect. You can see it's a little bit more shaded and a little bit lighter. If I hold that one up you'll be able to see there that we've got it a little bit lighter, there we go, and it's not quite as dark as a black. I'm going to move that out of the way, and I'm just going to use whatever ink is left on my mat along with the dauber, and I'm using the one from the rose. Pick up the ink and just go circular movements off the edge around the flag, and what that will do is just give that edge a nice crisp finished line. There we go, soften it, just go over the corners a little bit, just go over the corners of the flags a little bit, and then I want to give this a little bit of movement. So I'm going to move to the edge of the desk and I'm going to pop my hand flat down with the piece of card so the flag is there, put my hand down and just pull the card down the edge of the desk. I'll repeat that. If you can see, that curls it. So it gives me a real curled look. What I'm going to do is just alter that curl slightly. There we go. So I've got a curled look. So I've got a card blank that I'm going to add this onto. So I've cut this to 7 by 7 and I've matted and layered it with white, pink, green, and then done a smaller mat of white, pink and green just to pick up the colours I've used in the actual main piece. So I'm going to give this a little spray with spray glue and pop that on because it's a lot quicker. And you can see then that you see the white in the middle and you get that little edge on. And then I'm going to take the flag that I've made, put a little bit of a wet glue every time this happens to me now. Get it ready and it's not, there we go. A little bit on there, a little bit on where I want it to curl. And then I'm just going to choose the edge, a little bit of the pattern and hold that down. And just hold that down for a couple of seconds, just till you're happy that the glue has taken. And then we can hold our card up. And there you've got a very simple and quick birthday card that you can make onto a normal card blank very quickly, or with a few mats and layers. In a 10 minutes, 15 minutes maximum, you've got a quick, pretty birthday card that looks like you've used a lot more skills than we've got.